Good morning and afternoon. Good morning and afternoon. Good morning and afternoon. Good morning, morning, afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Or good afternoon. There's Alex. I'm going to welcome him on. Hey.
Hey, do I need to change my screen?
Yeah, you're sideways on my end.
Yeah. I see. Let me change it and I'll come right back.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, while Alex is getting this video together, I just want to welcome anyone who is watching. This is Saturday morning and afternoon healing conversations through the lens of mental health. And this is a part of Thrive Artist Group, which is a company for artists, a mental health organization for artists, where we focus on one-on-one coaching and support groups and classes and trainings. So this is just the beginning of it. This is only the beginning. So welcome. Hopefully, if you're watching again, you've enjoyed the videos and the interviews and the conversations thus far. There'll be many, many more to come. So let me invite Alex. Hello, everyone. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Hey,
Hey,
how goes it, my friend?
good. Good to see your face.
Good to see your face too, my love.
How's it going? I like your backdrop, you guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This little thing back here?
Yeah, that's a good audition wall.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, it's really good. Hey,
Uh,
Dexia. Um,
hey, whoever that was.
that's my cousin.
Oh, what's up, cousin?
All right. So welcome. I was giving a little overview of what Saturday mornings and afternoons is all about. And it's all about having healing conversations through the lens of mental health. So we're just going to jump right in.
Cool.
All right. So, Alex, tell me a little bit about yourself as a professional artist. What do you do?
Yes. I'm an actor, writer, producer, storyteller. I love stories and I love being involved in stories and like in a multitude of different way. I think the best way I look at it in terms of is like, what is the best way? What's the best way that I can serve the story? So sometimes
Mm,
that's being an actor, sometimes that's being, somebody who's writing it. Sometimes it's being someone who's producing it. Sometimes it's just being someone who's helping a friend to kind of conceive whatever it is or to nourish whatever um, inspiration that they have. But I'm obsessed with stories. I love stories. It's what wake up. I wake up thinking about stories and I go to sleep thinking about stories.
Hey, Jewel. Got a lot
What's
of
up?
people jumping in. Hey, Jewel, how's it going? Jewel, you're next. I want to interview you also. Boom. I'm letting you know now. So that's awesome. I think as an artist, definitely telling stories is what drives you, and maybe even more so as a creator, just wanting to get different stories and different conversations out there, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Just like this, for instance, with me, it's really important to get the stories of mental health out there,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we're here.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. So, why is mental health important to you?
Oh my God. I mean, before, what's interesting about that question is before, and I think that this might be kind of the theme or the foundation by which, I jump into this. Before, mental health was something I cared about, but from a distance, almost as if
Mm,
like, this is a way for me to be compassionate about others. And, it wasn't until relatively recently, that I was like, no, this is about me.
Mm.
And, the way that I, you know, want to, but I'm not always able to fully bring myself to experiences, to fully bring myself to the world. Um, and it's important to me first so that I can live as fully as possible.
Mm.
Then also so that, I can, whatever I can do to encourage or help others to be able to live as fully as possible.
What does it mean to live as fully as possible?
Hmm. Well, I think that, Nia, I've been thinking a lot about like authenticity
Hmm.
and asking like who I am, what it is that I want, how I bring myself into to spaces. And I feel as though for so much of my life, like it was about trying to figure out how I needed to present myself. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
and and what was the right way or the wrong way, and if I made a wrong step, or if I feel like people saw me make a wrong step, I would be really embarrassed and really ashamed. And bringing myself to life fully is just saying that like it's okay, it's okay to be who I am, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to have the thoughts that I think, and the emotions that I have, and from there that even from that place that I'm at, then I can fully just be there, and then fully be with the people I'm with, and fully be in the space that I happen to be inhabiting at that moment. And it sounds simple, but it's really, at least for me, it's been it's really difficult. It's really difficult because, as I said before, I was conditioned to do the opposite, to think about like what's wrong with me, how am I not performing properly, how am I not only performance in terms of like the stage, I just mean performance in terms of like performing in life, performing in this particular role that I'm supposed to be in. And it's almost like a reprogramming, just to say that like however I am, it's okay. And then from there I can decide whether or not I want to do certain things, or engage with certain people, or get engaged in certain ways. But at the base level, it's you know I have I have worth because I say I have worth.
Mm.
Not based off of the way that I'm perceived, or based off of what I attain or what I achieve.
Yeah. Two things that stuck out to me as you were talking, and I'm going to say the second thing first, but you mentioned the question, what's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the paradigm shifts that we talk about in peer support, as I'm a peer support specialist now. And so we talk about taking that question of what's wrong with you to what happened to you,
Mm-hmm.
because something has happened to everyone. Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to say, I don't feel like anybody can go through life without some form of trauma. And now through my training and my certification, I now know that that's pretty much true.
Mm-hmm.
The ACEs test, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the ACEs test, but it's adverse childhood experiences. And it basically asks 10 questions of things that happen in your household before you turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so it talks about divorce or abuse or drinking or depression, and there are so many people. I'm spitting out stats now, but 67% of people have experienced at least 4 or more ACEs. And when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, everyone experiences so much in their life. And even with me, I feel like I'm on a rant, so sorry, we'll get back on track. But even with me, I have 0 ACEs because none of these things happen in my household. But I did experience a lot of things outside of my household that, related to that. So when you said what's wrong with you, it really just sparked that idea in my mind about changing the question to what happened to you so
Yeah.
that we can have a deeper understanding, and really get somewhere when we're talking to people, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then also, it is simple. You actually said this yourself that it's a simple concept, but I wrote down it's okay to be who you are. Because I think, especially in this day and time, it doesn't it doesn't seem like that's acceptable,
I
you
mean,
know.
the medium that we find ourselves having this conversation on, encourages the very opposite, that, like who you actually are at that time. That's not how we often present on, social media. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I got my pullover on today. I put my hoodie on and I was like, this is me.
Exactly. Yeah. I need to go
So,
get my hoodie.
yeah. So, do you have, or can you talk about any personal experiences with mental health?
um I mean, I think that, just for me personally, I deal with a lot of anxiety, like a lot of anxiety, paralytic anxiety sometimes I like to call, like, where I will literally just almost be stuck in like suspended animation with,
Mm,
whether it's like thoughts of shame, or thoughts that I feel shameful about, or, mistakes that I might have made, or perceived mistakes, because maybe they might not even really be mistakes, but I'm perceiving them as mistakes, right? And this can go back as far as, I mean, like to third grade. It goes
mm,
far back, and it's kind of a gift and a curse. I have a really good memory,
mm-hmm.
particularly like emotional memory and stuff like that. I can remember things that happened in my friend's life that they're like, how do you remember that? But with that being said, I also remember these missteps, perceived missteps.
Mm,
And then I just realized, like, maybe a year ago, I was talking to a friend and I was explaining to them how I felt, and how, I can't remember what exactly I was saying to them, but they just looked me in the eye and just said, "It sounds like you're depressed." And I was like,
mm,
"Can't be, because I mean, I felt like that the majority of my life." And I was like, "Well, it sounds like you've been depressed." And a part of it, when I think of, and I know we're gonna get to this in a second, when we talk about like the stigma of mental health within certain communities, particularly our community, the Black community, right? I thought about that in a really, really kind of unnuanced way, just to say that people are just kind of turned off to the whole idea of it. But now I realize that it's not just the fact that, like, you can accept the mental illness. You can accept that, um, therapy and, all these other things are things that are actually helpful, but still not necessarily understand how um, prevalent and ubiquitous that it is within societies, and within ourselves. Like, that I I never thought of myself as being depressed until like a year ago, until someone said that, and then I realized that, oh, these times when I think that I'm unproductive, or I can't get up, or I can't get up to do certain things, or I can't focus, or I can't figure things out. Like those times, it's not that there wasn't something wrong with me, or my motor, or my focus. I was depressed. I was
mm.
depressed. Um, yeah.
Well, let's talk about that because this is actually great that you said that, because depression looks different on everyone. And a lot of people don't realize that with depression, you can be on a high You can be super productive. You can be out there. You can be socializing. You can be doing all of these things. But when you get home and when you really take the time to think about it, you may realize, well, I'm doing all of this to avoid the feeling that I actually have.
Mm-hmm.
So just my question to you would be, when you were told that and when you reflected back, what did depression look like on you?
I think you just explained it, like
Okay.
avoidance,
Mm.
avoidance, trying to escape, trying to find ways to, to get away. Even, not even as something as simple as I'm gonna call a friend, see what they're doing, as opposed to just sitting with whatever is happening with me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, that's the way. Difficulty focusing, because I said before, he's constantly being ripped back into a past experience, or like, a future, like a potential future outcome,
Yeah.
catapulted in there. So it's kind of hard to focus and just be in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't as much. I mean, I can get to places where I feel really um, lethargic, and and it's but more than I can get to a place where I isolate for sure, but more so, I think it's being taken out the moment, being afraid to engage with people, um, thinking that, like, the way that I'm going to engage with people, I'm going to somehow say something, do something that's off, you know, um, when I think that that's the way it looks on me.
Mm-hmm. You keep kind of referencing the misrepresentation or saying the wrong thing, not saying the wrong thing. And I that really resonates with me because in New York, oh my gosh, I felt like I was misrepresenting myself all the time. So I got to a place where I just isolated. I
Yeah.
didn't meet people, I wasn't making friends. I mean, the only friends I've made are, thank goodness for Brooks, because I wouldn't have made any friends because I felt so wrong.
Mm,
I knew I wasn't myself, but I couldn't figure out how to get back to who I thought I was. So I'm like, well, is this me? And like you get in that place, and I think it is really important to try to stay in the moment and not carry your past into the moment and not be focused on the future, but actually just being able to be present
hmm
and aware of what you are, of who you are, of how you are in that moment.
Yeah,
you know
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I also think a place like New York, because there's just so much happening, and the pace of it, it makes a lot of sense that you would feel that way. And and when I was in New York, I just moved to LA. That I felt like that. Like when I love the way you put it. I felt wrong. Not that like what I did was wrong, not not that what I was doing was wrong. Not what I was thinking. I felt wrong, and I
Hmm.
totally relate to knowing that there's a. I guess part of this is hopeful, but knowing that that I'm not fully being me. I talked about fully living, like knowing that, like this, like what I'm putting out there isn't. I'm not going to say it's not me, but like it's not.
Well, pause for the phone call. Oh, I lost you. Oh, there
I
you
know
are.
what that is because I have a timer on Instagram for how long I could be on it for this, because I need to really really be cautious of
Oh.
how I'm engaging in social media. One of the things, I know we're going to get there, but one of the things I do for my own mental health. Um, but I yeah, that just feeling wrong. just feeling off and not knowing what to do, how to get back to me, how to get back, how to get back to me. Actually, that's
Mm-hmm.
the best thing. It's almost the idea of like how to get back home.
Mm. Yeah. I'm writing down having a timer for Instagram. I love that. So we'll definitely get back to that when we talk about what you do. And I want to talk about how you came to that,
Mm.
you know. Um, so how has your understanding of mental health developed throughout the years?
Like I said, it was something that I just, I didn't include myself in as much. Before it's when I was young, and I think there's probably a lot of people who are part of my demographic that experience this too. It just wasn't something that was talked about, like at all,
Yeah.
like at all. My idea of mental health was people who needed to be admitted, um,
Yeah.
and then as time went on, it started to shift and start to say that, like, there are certain people within our lives that are dealing with mental health issues. But again, well, never really looked at it in terms of me. Then it
Right.
started becoming like, oh, there might be, friends and family members who are dealing with this, you know. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, this thing I've been dealing with all my life is it's not a character flaw. It's
Mm.
it's a mental health issue, you know. Um, and the recognition is only the first. I mean, it's the most important part, maybe, but it's one of the most important parts, but it's only the first part, And then it's the journey of, well, then what can be done about it.
Yeah. You're saying some good stuff and just writing it down. Because I love, yeah, it's not, the idea of this is not a character flaw. I love that. You have to dig a little deeper. And for me, when I think about it, that's a little cheap just to say, oh, well, there's something wrong with me and just leave it at that.
Hmm.
No, there is something happening to you. There is something going on that makes you feel that something isn't right,
Hmm.
you know? So listen to that voice, listen to that feeling, and do the work to actually explore what that is, you
Hmm.
know? Because I think we go for so long, because I actually had anxiety like around 9, 10. That's when I started noticing my
Same,
anxiety as well,
same.
you know. But I wasn't diagnosed with anxiety until I was like 28, you know.
Hmm.
And I actually found out just last week that my mom and dad actually took me to the doctor because they thought I had anxiety, but the doctor said nope. So I could have been diagnosed when I was 9, 10 years old,
Hmm.
you know. So that to say that sometimes we are doing so well that it's not even recognizable for possible, for our service providers, for our doctors, for our therapists, for, our counselors or whoever it is that we're talking to. Sometimes it's not obvious for them. So it makes sense that it wouldn't be obvious for us.
I just am. You are kind of illuminating some things to me, and the way that you talk about it, I appreciate it because the way I've been thinking about it is has a bit less grace for some of those. I was thinking in my mind like, oh, not my mind. I was thinking the other day to say that, like, yeah, I felt like I was failed in some circles,
Mm,
like, and I felt like that from elementary school all the way up to college, even grad school. That, like, they were. I was just like, why didn't anyone clock this, or why didn't anybody say anything? And to your, I also realized that, like, well, you were functioning in a way that they thought was like at least productive, and even sometimes from their point of view optimal. But I think that that goes into our collective awareness and education when it comes to mental health, and say that,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you might be highly functioning and you might be able to achieve certain things, but still deep down like have a lot of struggles. And for me, it got to a point where I think that makes a lot of sense. If you throw somebody who is incredibly anxious in a place like New York City, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of triggers, and there's a lot that any person is going to be dealing with, but someone who's particularly prone to be anxious, yeah, that would probably paralyze them.
Yeah, for sure. And with that said, I think it's important for us to explore and live in different places and go different places for
Mm-hmm.
that exact reason. Because when you're outside of your comfort zone, you learn more about yourself, you know? So you may have to move to New York like I did to realize for it to be clear, like, oh, okay, this is anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. And when I was in Arkansas and when I lived in Atlanta for almost 10 years, I was comfortable. I was still in my southern town. It was still slow paced. I was doing my gigs. I was really comfortable. But New York like shook that up. And it took me on a journey that I would not have gone on if it weren't for New York. And thank goodness for that, because I would have still been lost.
Yeah, that's a great point. Um, and I'm so grateful to be in New York. I mean, to have been in New York for as long as I was from an artistic point of view. But yeah, the programs and the help that I sought for myself was directly related to my experience in New York City. And had I
Mm,
not gone there, and just also to have the awareness to, now that I just been here for a week, just to be like, oh, I'm different here. Like like this place hits me differently, you know,
yeah.
and it's bringing certain things out, and it almost makes me think, like it makes me realize how much that we are part of like an ecosystem, you know, that
Mm,
that we have our own kind of social habitats that just kind of it affects us in specific ways.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. I've never talked about that. This is my first time in the Saturday morning and afternoon series that we've talked about location
Mm-hmm.
and how that affects your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So let me jot that down too. Yeah, because that's a really big conversation that I don't think people talk about often. Just like if someone grows up in an impoverished, violent neighborhood, that's going to affect their mental health,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we talk about how those people are, but we don't discuss what they're actually dealing with and
Mm-hmm.
how they're human beings going through this daily experience, and what does that mean for their minds, for their spirit, even for their body. Yeah, environmental impact can be a catalyst to many things.
Yeah.
Yes, it really can.
Yeah.
Thank you, Quita.
Yeah. Thanks, Quita. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm really glad we brought this up, and I want to continue that conversation with other people about, just what environment and location means to to the development or whatever it may be of your mental health.
Yeah, and I think that, you also bring up, it also makes me think that, we're all different. So different people are going to react to their environments differently. It makes me think of, there can be a person who grows up in a, impoverished community, and and with really big obstacles, socioeconomically, and they can thrive there. They can kind of rise to that challenge. uh, and then there's other people, if you are more sensitive, you're dealing with, like, anxiety, if for whatever it is, whatever your makeup is, it that your reaction is going to be totally different. That person's reaction is going to be totally different, and it's probably, more than likely, it won't be as positive, or you won't have as positive of an outcome.
Yeah.
And, again, at least I was raised in, within a context to say that, you know, that is all a byproduct of your will, and,
Mm.
your ability to be able to, like, tough it out and to be focused. Um, but that is not at all the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was writing an essay the other day. I'm applying for school, and
Oh.
I was writing about being one of the sections. I was writing about being a teacher, and I talked about how you well, for me, I worked in like very impoverished schools, and then schools that, the kids had everything they could absolutely dream of. But one thing that was consistent throughout, no matter what the status of the school was anxiety
Mm.
and depression and, whatever else comes with that. And I realized that, although we were talking about more so impoverished communities, we have those communities as well where, let's say your parents are so successful that they have these super high expectations of you, and then you end up having anxiety, and then you become depressed because you can't meet up to their expectations. So although we have these different experiences, we can come to the same results, which is the mental illness.
Mm.
you know so but then we also have to know that someone from the impoverished neighborhood, they may recognize, like, oh wait, I think I have anxiety, but they may not have the resources to
Resources.
go get that help. That next person, once when they realize they have anxiety, now they can go, they know where to go, you
Mhm.
know so that's the big discrepancy that we have.
I also think that, if you're from, like myself, you're from a community that does not have those resources, and then you're put, through school or through opportunities, then you're put in a space where, you do have those resources, in college or whatever space. How can I explain this? Like, there's a there's a disconnect between how to get to those resources, or even being aware that those resources exist, or that you
Hmm.
should be able, like, or even um, to kind of condition yourself to go do that. Like, that, and it's such a big, again, intellectually I can understand to say, oh, I should go see a therapist, I should go do this, or I should, like, it makes sense for me to go get that type of support. But what I recognize is that so many times within those spaces, I'm like, I don't exactly know how to do this, or there'll be something that happens, that there would be something that happens that stands in the way, just in terms of, like, the channel to get to those resources.
Yeah, for sure. And then Quita said, and seeking those resources can be seen as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
So you may know they're there, you may be on your college campus and know that the guidance counselor or they have a social worker there, but actually going into the building,
Mm-hmm.
into the office, sitting down in the chair, that takes a lot.
Yeah, someone might see you.
Someone may see you,
Mm-hmm.
and then what? you
Mm-hmm.
know so yeah, we definitely, like you mentioned, stigma, we definitely have to start destigmatizing the conversation, in an effort to allow people to go seek help.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to read what Quita said. She said, regardless of your socioeconomic status, trying to conform can contort mental well-being.
Mm. Love that word contort.
I know, me too.
Yeah, because it's so accurate. Us going back, like, how do I get back to me, right? We talked about that, and that,
Hmm.
to me, that feeling is like I'm so contorted and twisted and stuff. Like, I might try. It's almost as if you go get the Christmas lights, from to set up the Christmas tree, and they're so twisted and mangled and stuff. You just say, "Ah, fuck it," what I mean? I'm tired
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let me just go get some new
Yeah, I'm
lights.
just gonna, exactly. I'm gonna buy some new ones.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that. All right. Well, that was a lot said in there. So thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you for that. So let's get into the Black and artistic communities. So you can answer it separately or however you want.
Mhm.
But do you feel that either community is a little more open to mental health aid now? And where do you feel like the artistic community and the Black community are with seeking mental health services?
I think collectively, just about every aspect of our society now has become more open, to mental health. It is the way that it's just talked about differently. I think about, like, Charlemagne the God and the Breakfast Club. I mean, he's constantly talking about mental health and, like, self care and all these things. I mean, that's the preeminent hip hop station in America. If you think about that 15 years ago, I mean, that just wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the artistic community, I feel as though, for sure, has really, from, yeah, up to down, I think, has, um, also been very, like, advocates for mental health. I think that one thing that we need to look at, particularly from an artistic point of view, particularly from an artistic institution point of view, is, like, how are the way these institutions are functioning. You know, this is probably a larger question just within our society, within our economy. The way that they're functioned, the way that they're built, the way that they're structured. How conducive is that to to people's mental health, right? Or how much it affects it. You think about we think about the having this conversation within theater and the hours that actors and crew members are expected to work within the theater.
Mm.
We can want everyone to be able to get the resources that they need. We can want everybody to be able to not feel ashamed about their mental health. But again, like, the world that we're setting up, the conditions that we're setting up, how conducive is that? How conducive is a 10-hour schedule? How conducive is a 6-day work week? How conducive, excuse me, is that to somebody's the benefit of someone's mental health?
Yeah. Yeah, man. And again, I feel like an old person every time I say this, the way the world is now, but
Mm-hmm.
like there there used to be times, growing up, that although I was a really busy child, but just like boredom. and not having anything to do.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm sitting and watching TV, or, well, not TV, but more so my laptop, you know, and a commercial comes on, I immediately pick up my phone. And I think to myself, like, you mean to tell me, Mia, that you can't wait a minute and a half for this show to come back on, you know? And so there is something about now that we we feel like we're missing out on something if we don't just keep going,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So we have to be in everything, we have to know everything, we have to go everywhere, we have to do the 10-hour, you know, and be on a movie set. I remember being on set for like 22 hours or something crazy at one point, and I was just like, what is happening in the world? You know, just lost. But yeah, so we don't leave that time for us to go seek those resources,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, keep on. Quita said they used to say, keep on living.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. um but yeah, so we really, really, really have to think about, well, first, I think it's important to think about how can we make resources more available, which is a big part of why I'm having these weekly conversations. You know, it's a lot for me. Like, I'm a 9 to 5er now, so it's a lot for me to get up on Saturday and have these interviews. But what I do know is this is a resource for someone who may be feeling wrong, or maybe thinking, do I have anxiety, am I depressed, or do I have ADHD or bipolar, or, you know, whatever other mental illness is out there, you know. Like, having these types of conversations at least allows someone to have this conversation within themselves, so that this could at least be the first step
Mm-hmm.
to getting to a place of being able to actually seek out those resources and
Mm-hmm.
making the time and the effort to get that help, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm reading
Yeah,
tweet.
this, what does he say people need to hear?
Because artists are so creative and the mind is so agile, creatives need to have strategies for stress management. Yep.
Yeah.
People
Hey.
need to hear this so they know they are not alone. Yeah, strategies for stress management is exactly right. And we'll talk about strategies in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so 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 how does the subject of mental health inform the work you do as an artist?
Well, for me, um, just in terms of creation, um, I orient to like the broken parts of characters. Um,
Mm,
very much so. It's very easy for me to have compassion and empathize with, like, you know, the part of this person that's broken. You know,
mm,
because I get that. Like, I might not be in it broken in the same way or the circumstances, but I understand that. I understand defense mechanisms really, really, really well. You know,
mm.
um, and everything that I do comes from everything I write, everything I create comes from a place of empathy. You know, because we're all just trying to figure this thing called life out. You know, and most of us are not giving the tools to be able to do that in like a healthy way. Um, I also, when it comes to like productions and things that I guess I just try to be as aware that people are, like, you never know what somebody is dealing with. You never know what somebody is going through. And I think the best thing for me I've experienced as an artist is when people give me space, you know, space to create, but also space to be where I am and not feel as though like we live in the society that we live in, which is a capitalist society, which, you know, has kind of deadlines and deliverables and everything. But, you know, artistically, as you know, it don't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work like that. And the best thing that you can do if you're at the helm, or if you're like producing something, is to be able to give people space and let them know that they're held, and let them know that, like, you know, they're not alone. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of my like now ultimate dreams is to be like an on-set therapist for, you know, television shows and movies. Because just like you're saying, where you orient yourself to the broken parts of your character, how is that affecting your mental health? Like when you go into that rehearsal or when you go into that reading and you're breaking yourself to connect with that character, what do you do to then fill yourself back up?
mm. So
You know?
yeah, yeah, that's a question. That's a rhetorical question, or a question
No,
you
no, it sounded rhetorical, but I'd
mean?
like you to answer it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I have I have to put my mental health and my spirituality first. It's one thing I've learned the hard way. I have to put it before my work. I have to put it before my you know, relationships. I got to put it before my family. I do. I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So that means a constant checking in with myself, a constant, like, you know, journaling, constantly, you know, talking with whatever, you know, mental health professional that, you know, I'm working with in my life. Um, and you know, the point that you bring up is a great point, like how it's actually affecting me. I don't know, if I've never been in a situation where yet where I've done a character where I'm like, well, wow, I gotta, that changed me. That did something to me. That hit a couple triggers, and I need some help to kind of, you know, kind of come back to some type of wholeness. I haven't gotten there, but because of, to your point, what I'm interested in, the fact that I'm interested in like the broken parts of people, the fact that I'm like, also, I'll be real, I am, as an artist, I'm interested in, like, you know, kind of like the dark elements of people. I'm interested in like the lighter parts of people, but I have a very almost yin yang thing with me, that I'm interested in the things that make people go dark. Because of that,
Mm.
I do have to have an awareness of that, and to say that, yeah, these kind of rituals that I have been able to develop over the time with help, they might not always work for me. There might be a time when I need to go and find even more help, specifically because of what I just took myself through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a you know, that's a big one that we have to just look at how a character is affecting you, you know, and just being mindful that you may not have come across that character as of yet, but you know, that character may exist out there for you. So just being mindful that, hey, I need to already be prepared to take care of myself outside of this experience so that I remain whole and, you know, be able to continue to live as fully as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some things you do to maintain your mental health? Tools, strategies. I know you just mentioned journaling. And so, what else do you do?
So, therapy. Um, I I just started doing that, like, more consistently. Um, I also, I said journaling. I meditate every morning. I have a whole, I look at mental health and spirituality as like kind of the same thing, you know, it's like all part of so, or at least it has the same objective, and it's to get me to wholeness. So when I
Mm-hmm.
wake up, first thing I do is I do, you know, prayers and meditation and journaling. And I have a lot of time to myself before that is really self-care and self-love internally before I bring myself, before I interact with anybody else. Because I realize that if I don't do that, then I interact with people like I bring a fraction of myself to people, and then I feel small and I don't feel, you know, grounded. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I also I have I have great friends, um, you included, and I I've been able to. This is a real blessing, particularly as a Black man. I've been able to be very, very vulnerable with my friends.
Mm.
You know, I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and we were really, really kind of just vulnerable and talking about the issues that we're dealing with, and both of us saying that we're going to make a recommitment to therapy. Um,
Mm.
and you know, I was never I was never lacking, well, let me be clear. You know, I definitely felt the pressure to be hard or to not like come off as though I was weak. I definitely felt that pressure. But my
Mm-hmm.
closest friends, I've always been able to really confide in and show my wounded parts to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really big. Because we don't, we see our therapist once a week. So what do you do outside of that?
Hmm.
So definitely having people or that friend that you can go to is essential, you know. I definitely have a few people. Sometimes, to be completely honest, this probably isn't the best thing to do, but I'll like kind of send a group message to my closest people and be
Hmm.
like, "Yo, this is not good. I'm
Hmm.
not in a good place. This is not pretty, and I won't even need all of them to even respond, but just knowing that I was able to put that out there to someone who I know cares about me makes me feel a little better,
Hmm.
you know. So definitely having those friendships is essential because you're always not going to have that mental health professional to go to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they charge by the hour.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I always tell my therapist, I'm like, girl, I feel like you're my home girl. Like we're legit friends. But then I think about like, no, I'm paying you, child. There is a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference. Mhm.
So, last question. What can you do to motivate others to let them know they're not alone? What can you say to others to just kind of lift them up?
Yeah, I would say that this is about your life. And as far as I know, we only get one of those. Maybe we get more. I don't know. God hasn't told me that he hasn't shared that secret with me yet. But
Right.
yeah, it's and we all can live life as I said, fully as possible and freely as possible. It's it's a matter. I guess it's a matter of surrendering. It's an idea of like, you know, you become strong by like admitting your weaknesses, right?
Mm,
Um, we don't have to be. I've learned that I don't have to be strong in the ways that I thought that I have to be strong. It's actually the opposite. Um, and for anybody who literally, when there is a physiological response that I realize that I have that makes me feel disconnected. And the hope that I have is to say that, you know, I can live life without that part that's cutting me off.
Mm.
And I can actually be, you know, I can actually, and I've experienced that because of the work that I've done. I've experienced it doesn't last forever, but I've experienced times when I don't feel as though I'm holding, or you know, I'm not worried. I'm not like, you know, afraid of actually showing myself. And it sounds old and corny, but that's like the treasure of life, to be able to be free in that type of way. I promise you that, like, I pray for that more so than I pray for anything material.
Wow. Writing.
Mm.
Not being afraid to show yourself. Boom. That was awesome.
You also have beautiful teeth. I don't know if I ever told you that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. My sister actually is like very proud of her teeth because she's been told her whole life that she has perfect teeth. But yeah, we've always been told we have good teeth. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Runs in the family.
Now I feel like I have to smile with my teeth just because I'm silly. Well, thank you so much, Alex. You said a lot of really, really awesome stuff today. So my cousin said we didn't get the family gap. So I know, and it's so weird. I want my kids to have a gap. That's a random fun fact. Like, I want one of my kids to have a gap because I think they're so cool. And a list. I want one with
a
a
gap
list,
and a
and one
list.
with a gap. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm setting my kids up. I think they're both so cute. But anyway, let us know, Alex. I know I've actually never done this, but I know that you are often doing a lot of producing or directing. Like
Still
you
doing
said,
it.
you love telling stories. So let us in on what you're working on. Is there anything we should look out for? You know, do a
Yeah,
little
I mean,
plug yourself.
okay, there's a couple of things. I just did a short film called Pagliacci, which it kind of chronicles the story of a black conservative pundit who has this existential breakdown because of a family tragedy. And it's really dope. Again, it's a example of me, my kind of like my empathetic kind of bone in my body, being like, okay, this is someone who I probably disagree with. This would be a character I disagree with politically, you know. But what's the way that I can try to create some type of narrative that is empathetic and to imagine what it might be like in her shoes? I'm writing and producing a lot of things. I'm doing something about with that kind of is a mix of African folk tales and TikTok, using TikTok to kind of tell African folk tales, and that'll be out probably like in a month or so. And you know, there's a couple series that I have that I've produced as well that I will be looking to pitch. So it might be coming to a place near you pretty soon.
Yes. Okay, so Brooke said and Quita said spell that. So the film that you
Oh,
mentioned,
Pagliacci?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's Pagliacci,
Pagliacci.
It means clown. It's Italian for clown. There's actually an opera named Pagliacci, which like the famous tenors Pavarotti and what's the other one's name? Caruso. They've all performed. It's like one of the more popular operas that there is. But the reason I took that is because there's this song in it that talks about, you know, having to wear this mask to cover having to wear the mask of the clown to cover the pain that the performer feels. The performer is wretched in pain. They just found out that their wife has cheated on them, and which they expected, and they have to go continue to do the show. And he's saying that I put on this mask to hide the pain.
Oh man. Wow. All right. Well, thank you. Pagliacci.
Yeah.
Get a little opera background.
Yeah. Trying to do something.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alex. It was so amazing being able to talk to you.
Thank you. I feel very, very honored.
Yes, you have to come over so I can feed you.
I will definitely do that.
Yes.
I will definitely do. And what up, Brooke?
Yeah, so again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'm just as honored to have you here. And we're here every week, folks. I have different artists coming in, and we have these conversations about mental health. And if I can say myself, they are amazing every single week.
They
Okay?
are. Every week.
Okay. So
okay.
Get it together. Come see us. And if you're seeing this, thank you so much for watching. You watched until the end, so thank you for that. And all right, have a great day, everyone. Alex, I'll be reaching out to you a little bit after this, so just expect a text from me.
Okay, thanks, love.
All right, have a great day, everyone.
Peace
Bye.
out.